Pfizer and partner BioNTech announced that they are seeking regulatory clearance for their COVID-19 vaccine in Europe. This puts the shot on track for a potential approval in Europe before the end of the year. Joining us now from France with the latest on vaccine developments is Bloomberg Intelligence's Director of Research, Sam Fazeli. Sam, it's good to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for joining us. How does the Pfizer timeline compare to the Moderna one that we learned about yesterday? And do we expect approval around the same time?
Good morning. Yeah, so Moderna has been about a week behind Pfizer in terms of the timing of data releases and also the filing. So as you know, in the United States, they're going to have to be waiting until the 17th of December for the FDA to get together and look at their data, whereas Pfizer-BioNTech are on the 10th of December. But frankly, 1 week in the greater scheme of things is nothing. So as far as I'm concerned, they are neck and neck in this race to help us get out of the pandemic.
What is the approval process in terms of differences and similarities between the two areas of the world?
Yeah, I would say that the major difference is, at the end of the day, they look at exactly the same data sets. There's nothing different between what they look at. Is that the US FDA generally goes for, and especially for these vaccines, et cetera, for public hearings, which is something that's really useful because anyone from anywhere in the world can dial into them and listen. Whereas the European regulators, the UK regulator, don't necessarily have the same kind of hearings. They don't necessarily have the same kind of advisory committees, although they have a lot of experts that are there involved, the doctors, etc. But it's not the same structure. Otherwise, the process is much the same. They look for evidence of efficacy and definitely putting themselves at rest with regards to their minds at rest with regards to safety.
This is obviously a global pandemic, and the challenge is not to just vaccinate one country or one area of the world. The challenge is to vaccinate the world. Take us through the timeline that we're looking at in the European Union and perhaps how that compares to the United States.
Yeah, so in terms of the timing is pretty much the same up front. I think everyone's going to get several tens of millions of doses of vaccine from Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna. Some countries, the United Kingdom, for instance, only has access to about 7 million doses of vaccine from Moderna, whereas it's got about 30 million or 40 million, sorry, from Pfizer-BioNTech. So those initial doses in both regions, either side of the Atlantic, are likely to go to healthcare workers, frontline healthcare workers, and also the elderly and the folks who are at highest risk of getting a severe disease and potential hospitalizations. So that would be the same. When it comes to later on, then we do have a slight divergence potentially, as there aren't as many doses of the RNA vaccines contracted for Europe and the UK as there are for the US. I calculate the US can cover its population just about twofold, just shy of twofold, with doses, whereas Europe and the UK are at a third or so. So that's something that might change the direction and the speed with which the two countries get going with their vaccinations.
And here in the United States, we are expecting, at least what some health officials are saying and some public health experts are saying, May, June is sort of what we would look like when enough of the population here in the US gets vaccinated so we do reach herd immunity. What does it look like between now and then? Masks and social distancing, what we've been doing, is that's here to stay, right?
Well, so I think the way to think about this is if you look at what's happened with Ebola, you'll find that whilst we got knocked the major issue on the head, you still get little small forest fires, for want of a better phrase, small outbreaks happening. So I think that will continue to be the case with COVID in the long run. But the answer to your question is a simple equation of vaccine efficacy, vaccine durability, and how many people actually take the vaccine. And of course, you have to add to that the fact that 10, 15, 20% of folk are already infected, so hopefully they're immune. So you should be able to get to a reasonable number, globally speaking, from the entirety of the United States, sometime in the second quarter. But of course, you'll have regions or cities or areas where people are much more for vaccination as opposed to against. So that will cause some regional variability.
Bloomberg Intelligence's Sam Fazeli in France. Thanks as always for your time today. We appreciate it.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.